Anyways, we are back talking about the Cold War in the 50s, and so we'll get into that. This is where I left off last Wednesday. We're talking about the fact that the U.S. government is spending buku bucks on to develop all kinds of cool new weapon systems in the 1950s, as you can see. And that's the big idea in the 50s, because this man is our president, kind of in the 1950s, President Dwight Eisenhower. Dwight Eisenhower was a former general. He's the commander of the D-Day invasion. So he thinks like a guy who certainly has a lot of a military background, which presidents don't always have. But in the 50s, Eisenhower kind of defines what's going to happen in the Cold War. And then later on, we'll get into the social and economic aspects of the 50s too, which is pretty fun. Anybody ever watch that one show back in the day? It's called Happy Days. Yeah, when you're really bored, you can watch it on TV Land or something like that. But that's what I always think about when I see this. Anyways, I just want to start off. This is pretty funny. This is actually television started in the early 50s, and this is the very first televised presidential ad. Of course, presidential stuff is in the news, right? I mean, Hillary Clinton came out yesterday and said, "I'm running for president," as if we didn't know, you know. So this right here, this is the absolute 100% first ever presidential Eisenhower TV ad. So I don't know. You'll think it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of corny, but here we go. Oh, sorry. Let's go to that. I for president, I for president, I for president, I for president, you like that, I like that, everybody likes I for president, I for president, keep it up, we'll make that you for you done, we don't want John or Keith or Harry, if that big John Brighton, let's get it, step with the guy with that, get it, step with I, you like that, I like that, everybody likes I for president, I for president, keep it up, we'll make that you for you done, we got to get with me, you're going to grab all day and night for president, and the goes the other way, we all go with I, you like that, I like that, everybody likes that for president, I for president, keep it up, we'll make that you want you done, we'll make that you want you done. Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country. They just don't make that anymore, right? So there you go. So what are you getting with Ike in the 50s? Okay, so Ike, we like Ike, everybody likes Ike. So in the 50s, Eisenhower basically has a few points of emphasis, and they're all up here for you, and let me do my teacher thing and extrapolate on each of them. Is that a word? Yeah. Okay, so there's 4 things here: massive retaliation, MAD, domino theory, and CIA and covert operations to subvert communism. So let's start out with the first one. President Eisenhower's Secretary of State is a man by the name of John Foster Dulles. It's spelled like this: D-U-L-L-E-S. Dulles. Okay? And Dulles is a guy that doesn't think that we should be playing softball with the communists all around the world, right? Because we're all about trying to maintain, you know, some kind of containment going on with the communists. Massive retaliation means that, okay, we know you have the bomb, we have the bomb, and we will retaliate if necessary in a massive fashion. Like, we will pull out all the stops to defeat you. In other words, some textbooks like to use the word brinksmanship. Like, it's the same thing. Like, the threat of going to war is sometimes greater than actually going to war. Like, how far are you willing to massively retaliate or to go to the brink of war? So let's say the Soviet Union infiltrates like
let's say they pull a stunt and they try to infiltrate West Germany, right? Massive retaliation would say, we're going to bomb the living heck out of not only the Soviet Union, but also East Germany too. It means, kind of like as Jesus once said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You know, retaliate massively. Don't let the Russians gain a foothold anywhere in the world. Make sure that they know that we will respond to what they're going to do. Okay? Because you don't want to send out the wrong signal in the Cold War, right? You don't want to send out the signal that America's weak, you know, that we're not going to do anything about some kind of aggression worldwide. Like we have to threaten them to the point where we're actually going to seriously go through with it. Okay. MAD, number 2. Mutual, this is what is called mutually assured destruction. A really fun word, MAD. Mutually assured destruction. It's kind of the same idea as massive retaliation, but a little bit different. Mutually assured destruction means maintaining what you call parity among the nuclear powers. So we're nuclear, the Soviets are nuclear. Maintaining parity. Parity means that we should have an equal amount of nuclear weapons, so that if we are attacked, we can destroy them. If they are attacked, they can destroy us. It means that if we're attacked, we can just destroy each other. That's called mutually assured destruction. You might think it's mad, but you know what? It's not mad. It's not crazy. It actually makes a lot of sense, because if both sides have equal amounts of nuclear weapons, then they'll be less likely to try anything, right? It's kind of like if you guys all came to class with weapons, like guns, okay? Like everybody, like what if we made a new law in the United States? This is twisted, but work with me, okay? What if we gave everybody an M16? Just by law, by birth, you get an M16, okay? Now, I don't know if you ever shot one of those. I never have. I'm not into guns or anything like that. Some people are. What if we did that? Would the crime rate go down, or would it go up? According to this, now it depends, I know, but according to this idea, if everybody knows that they're going to get shot if somebody else tries to shoot them, like I'd be more scared of being killed, right? Like it actually keeps the peace. This is very twisted, but this is the logic of the superpowers in the Cold War. Like, we can kill each other, but we're not going to do it, because if we do that, then that means the death of civilization, and we're not willing to do that. So by both having nuclear weapons, it ironically makes the world safer. Yeah. It's twisted. You got to wrap your mind around this, okay? Jacob, what do you think? No problem. We'll just do what the Avengers did, or Hydra in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We'll take them out before they can become threats. See? That way. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry. Maybe I should work for the government, huh? No, but seriously, that's what's going on now. The third component of the Cold War in the 50s is the domino theory. The domino theory basically means that what you want to do, you guys ever played dominoes, right? This is really stupid, but anyways, dominoes fall, you know. Imagine these are countries, right? The domino theory means that if one country falls to communism, the rest of the countries around it will fall to communism, just like a bunch of dominoes fall. And so this is American foreign policy thinking at this point in the 50s. Like, we cannot let any one nation go communist, because if we do, who knows what's going to happen to their neighbors? Their neighbors might get ideas. This could be problematic. This is the kind of thinking that gets us involved in conflicts around the world, such as Korea, right, which we'll talk about, I think, coming up very soon, and Vietnam. It's all about this thing called the domino theory, and America has to be the nation to stop the dominoes from falling. Like, we have to be the thumb or whatever, stop it. And that's just, as the Cold War develops, it takes on a new life, really. It's not just about trying to stop the Soviets. It's trying to stop the Soviets around the world, which is very hard. And because of that, the United States will be involved in many, many, many CIA operations and covert operations that are designed to thwart communism. I could point to a lot of different events. Let me highlight one of them for you. In 1954, the United States government was involved in, not the election, but in Guatemala, which is a Central American country, there was an election. In the election, a socialist took over. His name was Jacobo Arbenz, A-R-B-E-N-Z, kind of like Mercedes-Benz, but close, Arbenz. And basically, he gets elected, and his party is socialist, right? Like, they want to take back the land from the rich and kind of redistribute it and all this kind of stuff. The United States wastes pretty much no time in trying to destabilize his regime, and in fact, they're involved in an assassination plot with the CIA training people there to actually assassinate him. Because the last thing the United States wants in the 1950s is communist leaders. Let me point to another nation, 1959. Something very big happens in Cuba. You guys know what leader took over in Cuba as a communist? Fidel Castro. Now, Fidel Castro is, of course, still alive. His brother Raul is in power in Cuba as we speak. In 1959, when he took over, the very next year, President Kennedy, because Eisenhower was out, President Kennedy actually signed an executive order to invade Cuba using American military power to oust Fidel Castro. Again, the last thing you want is a communist nation 50 miles away from the United States, right? Didn't work, though. The Cubans actually fought back. They beat back the United States. It was a huge mess. It was called the Bay of Pigs, and it was a disaster. Which is funny because now, if you've been reading the news, the United States and Cuba are starting to come together again, right? If you haven't known this, the United States has had an embargo against Cuba for the last, well, ever since 1959, however long that's been. So they have not been able to trade with us, nor we have been able to trade with them. And that's all going to change in the future. President Obama, I think, is on his way out, so he's like, I want to do something big. So let's lift the ban, let's lift the embargo. So things are changing as we speak, and because all the baseball players from Cuba are coming to the United States. I mean, Yasiel Puig, Yoenis Cespedes, good people like that. Anyhow, these are the four, I think, main components. And so when we talk about the Cold War, let's kind of get into that a little bit. Major Cold War events of the 50s, you've got to start out with this one, the Korean War. Okay, so, and again, I'm always trying to connect things to current events, so hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. But basically, after World War II, you've got a divided country here between North and South Korea. The northern part is ruled by communists. The southern part is ruled by not communists. I'm not going to say democratic South Korea either, but an area that at least is supported by the United States. And so in 1950, the North Koreans invade the South Korean part of the peninsula